So thank you all for coming. Thank you for your films. I mean, one of the things that I really love about we have, 4 live action films without a lot in common, I guess, except Cam Girls and a couple of them. We have an animated Looney Tune. We have a documentary. We have filmmakers here who've come from theater, from shorts, from features, from television, from web series. So there's not a lot in common. I just want to start with, go down the row and say, what led you to this subject, and why did you want to use the short form to make a film about it? Chris? And you might want to reintroduce what film you directed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Chris McCaleb. I directed 15 Minutes at 400 Degrees. What drew me to it, I was given a script by Carmela and Doug, who wrote this and produced it, and I was really drawn to it. I was drawn to, I think it's comedic, but I think it tackles some pretty complex themes, like sort of modern desperation, kind of how people are desperate for connection, people are desperate for money, people are, in everybody in their own way is sort of, experiencing some kind of desperation, and I was really drawn to it.
So why the short form?
It's sort of a self-contained story. I mean, it's sort of a beginning, middle, and an end. Years ago, I was making web series, and our episodes were 90 seconds. We did a 90-second episode every day. There were dramas. Turned out that was too short, which is why we're not still making those 90-second episodes. But there's something I really like about a beginning, middle, and an end in a very short amount of time. And this story it's best suited for that format.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. I wrote and directed Real.Live.Girl. Thank you so much for having me. This story is very personal. It's the combination of dealing with loss of people who are incredibly close to me, to Alzheimer's, and the experience of being a young woman. I was working as a waitress at Sky Bar when I wrote it, and so sort of the dichotomy of going out into the world and being objectified and then coming home to people that I loved who don't know who you are. Those were things that were, in my heart and soul at the time of writing it. So it's just a personal story. As far as why a short, I'll happily do features if anybody has the money. But yeah, Carmela, the producer of these, was wanting to do shorts, and so when she came to me wanting to make a short, I said yes.
Jeremy?
Hi, I'm Jeremy Merrifield. I'm writer-director of Balloon. So this is sort of a mid-career switch for me going into filmmaking. I had worked for the last more than a decade in the New York's theater community and the Broadway theater community, and but I'd always really loved going to the festivals and watching shorts, and this was sort of a way for me to be able to make a movie that I have a feature based off of. It was a way for me to explore something as a first-time filmmaker and see it in sort of like, it's interesting to explore something that you have a longer form for and then really sort of adjust that to be sort of almost like I don't know, short films are like riddles or they're like little, little quips, and I think it's interesting to see how you can adapt that, so.
Asher?
I'm Asher Jelinsky. I wrote and directed Miller and Son. In terms of where the story came from, I'm gender non-binary, so part of the desire to tell the story was to see more gender non-conforming characters on screen. But apart from that, thematically, I wanted to explore the feeling of compartmentalization. I think that's something that everyone can relate to, whether or not you're transgender. Everyone in this room, I'm sure, has your own stories about masking feelings in order to fit in or move ahead or protect yourself. So I wanted to really dive into that feeling and have the audience follow the emotional journey of the protagonist. In terms of why the short form, I think shorts are a really great opportunity to explore a particular moment in time with a character. So yeah, this story takes place over the course of a day, basically, and I think the short form was a great format to explore that.
Pete, I realize the question, why the short form when you're making a Looney Tune is perhaps...
Yeah, it's kind of required. It's a requirement. But yeah, I mean, that being said, there's animated films, and then there's cartoons, I feel like, and to be able to explore that language and that style of humor and animation in a Looney Tunes, it was sort of a dream come true to get that, to do it in 7 minutes, just like all the classic directors did in the Golden Age. But yeah, and I just think it's its own unique sort of thing, or storytelling, or type of storytelling.
Yeah. Mohammad?
Hey everyone, Mohammad with Exit 12. Thanks for being here. Thanks for TheWrap for putting this on. This to answer the back half of the question first. I think the short format. Part of it is I love short films. The question was like, why short? My thing's like, well, why does it have to be long? But also there's a level of like when I spoke with Roman, when I first found out about him and his story and his experience of war, the experience for him was very ephemeral. And I think like with the short, we were able to kind of drop the audience into a world, and then in about 20, 25 minutes, kind of take them away from that world and kind of reinforce that ephemeral feeling of war that I think Roman felt, this thing that happened to him that was powerful when it was happening, but suddenly it was gone and it was back to being a civilian. I wanted to make a film during this time in America where so many are attempting to rewrite American values, are attempting to hijack the concepts of what makes a patriot, of what these characteristics are that define who America is. And I wanted to redirect the discourse around this idea that the thing that sets America apart when it's at its best is holding itself to the highest standard is actually the ultimate American value. And I felt that who better to kind of represent these values than a group of veterans who remind us that we as a country are failing veterans when they return from war, that more veterans are dying when they come back home than when they're at war, and what does that say about us as a society? And that really being a vehicle to infiltrate the kind of conversation around some of the things that are dividing our country right now.